name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is creating the material mat and the particle system for the flamethrower gun that we're going to create. So in this video specifically, we'll be making the two elements that we need in order to create the flame itself. And then in later tutorials, we'll actually affix it to the gun and start working with collision systems and all of that. So what we're going to do is go into Project 10 Doors. We're going to right click on it. So let's go ahead and copy, right click, paste. This way we have all our enemies and we have everything that we need so that we can do the testing later on the flamethrower. So I'm going to go into Project 11. I'm going to call it Project 11, and we're going to go ahead and call this Flamethrower. Remember not to make the names too long because it don't like that. So here we're just going to, instead of calling it Flamethrower, we're just going to call it Flame. We know what we're talking about. So we're going to call this one Flame. Oops, Flame. All right, once we've got that, let's go ahead and double click and open this up. All right. Okay, so to start this off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back out to first-person player, since this is going to be something that's going to be attached to the gun, and essentially we're going to be doing a lot of code for it with the first-person BP. I'm going to leave it here underneath BP Blueprint, so I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to create a new folder, and we're going to go ahead and call this flame_thrower. All right. And in there, we're going to go ahead and create two things. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a material, and I'm going to call this flame. All right, so that's going to be the flame material. And then we're going to right click again. And this time we're going to create a particle system. And this will be actually the thing that creates the flames. So this will be flame thrower. Okay. With both of those things started, we're going to go first into the material mat. So let's go and double click in there. And the first thing that we see is that we open it up and we have this blank ball that's in there. So with the flame, with the box flame selected, what we want to do is go into our blend mode, and we're going to change this into translucent, so then that way the light that we're going to generate in there will actually shine through the whole thing. And we're going to go into the shading, and this is going to be something that again is going to be generating its own light, so we don't need light falling on it messing up the effect. So in there, that's going to then change flame to just have a few options, because essentially we've gotten rid of a lot of things. And now we're going to generate a couple of boxes. So let's right click, and the first box that we need to do is called a texture sample. Texture sample. And so that'll be one of the boxes. And I like to go ahead and create all the boxes so you can see everything that we need to go into. So this is going to be a particle sub SUV. So particle sub SUV. There it is. So there's that. Then we're going to need a texture coordinate box. So they're going to call this a text coord. Okay, so it'll look like that. And the next thing we will need is another one called a black body, which is actually going to create and generate like a black outline around this thing. So the fire feels, I don't know, it just really helps with the effect. It's amazing why adding this little box does. Then we're going to need a add, and we're also going to need two multiplies. Oops. To multiply, I'm just going to Control-C, Control-V to copy. And then the last thing that we're going to need is what's called a particle color. There it is. Okay, so these things are almost set up in the order that I need them to be in. So let me just get them lined up almost where they need to be. Okay, that'll be there. And one of these multiplies is going to be between here and there. Okay, so essentially that's where everything is going to end up. So let's go ahead and before we connect everything, there is two things that we need to add. So we need to add information into the texture sample and the particle SUV, S sub UV. So in the first one, we're going to click on it, and here underneath texture, you can click on none, and we're actually going to type in there smoke, and this one is going to be the smoke UV88, and it's actually going to be the same thing that we're going to add down here. So we're going to type in smoke and the same SUV8. Okay, so both of those would go in there, and oh, sorry, let's just make sure we do that right. So on this one, let's make it the sub UV. So the top one is going to be the sub UV, and the bottom one is going to be the sub UV 8x8. Honestly, to me, they look the same, but it works a lot better. So we're going to connect the texture coordinate to the texture sample. Then we're going to connect the full color to the add. We're going to add the full color of the particle system to this one. From the add, we're going to take that to the multiply. We're going to take from the particle color just the red, because this is going to be fire. It's going to help with the coloring system. And not that this is actually where the color is being generated. Let's go there into the black body, and then from the black body, that's going to go into the emissive color. Okay, from there, we're going to connect the bottom. So this is going to come off of the alpha channel, not the RGB, but the alpha channel. Then we're going to connect the alpha channel from here to the multiply, and then we're going to attach this to the opacity. Once we do that, we're going to see the same pattern here as a black pattern with a clear black background. If you have the opposite, you've done something wrong. So this is what it should look like. All right, once we've done that, we can go ahead and hit apply and save. And we now have the material which we're going to enter into our flamethrower. So let's double click on the flamethrower. Now, with this, what I would suggest is taking and tiling your view like this. And the reason why is because up until a certain point, we're not even going to see the particle system with the background that we have on it right now. So what I like to do is I like to come here to the work area, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this particle system and drop it on the floor and move it up. And there I'm going to see that it is actually generating something. So as soon as we start adding this, and really this killed me the first time I made this tutorial, because I'm watching the dude and his thing is going and I see the fire and I don't understand why. And it's because I had to click one button, and until that button was clicked, I didn't get to see anything. All it was black up there, and it's going to be black down here because of that black body until we finish with the coloring system on it. All right, so with all that said, we're going to click here and we're going to go ahead and start. So the first thing that we need to do is come into the particle system, and we're going to right click down here, and we're going to go into type data, and this is going to need to be new GPU sprites. And what that's going to do is help kind of break it up a little bit. And again, everything all about this is about trying to make it look more and more and more like fire. So in the required, this is where we're going to add the particle system that we just created. So we can type in there, and we know that the thing is called flame because we can see it right there. So we're going to type in flame, and that should bring up the material system that we just created. So we're going to add that, and you're going to see that it's slowly starting to change, but as soon as we did, boom, this thing's gone. And you're like, dude, where's my thing? And it's because we don't have any color in it yet. Okay, so once we've got the required, the other thing that we need to do to this is scroll down, and I believe it's under the sub UV. There it is. Underneath sub UV, we need to change this to a linear blend. So then that way the blend between the particles is a little cleaner. And because we had an 8x8 sub UV, we need to make this 8x8. And that's going to, you can already see that the particle system is starting to end up looking, it's kind of like reshaping itself the way fire does. So in the required, that's all we need. So far we've added a GPU sprites. We've gone into required, and we have changed the flame to the flame, the matte that we just created, and here we're going in and adding linear blend and adding 8x8. All right, so from there, the next thing we're going to do is go into lifetime, and you're going to need to open these things up. So open up lifetime, open up distribution, and you're going to see those two options. And what we need these to be is 2 for the top one and 3 for the bottom one. And this is going to make our particle system just a little bit longer, right? And we're going to reshape and resize this here in a minute, but this gives it the duration, the length of life that it's actually going to have. All right. From there, the next thing we need to go is into initial size. Again, you need to open the start size, open up distribution, and here we're going to make quite a few changes. The first one is going to be 160, and we're going to do 0 by 0. And then in the next one, we're going to type in 120, 0 by 0. And again, it may not look like exactly what we're going for right now, but just bear with me. Eventually, this is going to start looking the way we need it to. So from there, that's good. Let's go into initial velocity. And again, we need to open up distribution, this and this. And let's see what we have there. So underneath velocity, we're going to change the max to 500, and you're going to see that that's already starting to give us the lateral movement across. This is going to be 10, and the next one is going to be 20, and then from there, the next one is going to be 150 by -10 and -20. Okay. So now we have something that looks more like a flamethrower. We have the emitting side of it right there, and then we have it kind of trailing off and disappearing towards the back end, which at this point is what we have at the moment. Okay, so from here we're now going to go into color life. Okay, and again, you're going to need to open up the color, open up the distribution, open up the constant curve. And by default, you're going to have 2 array elements. What you're going to need to do is go ahead and open up points, and we're going to add 2 more, right? So the total that we're going to have is 4. We're going to read it as 3 because it's counting 0 as a number, all right? And with that open, we're going to come here to the inval number. This one we're going to leave at 0. But we're going to change the out value here. So if you double click, it opens up the color picker for us. And remember that we connected this to the red value. So we're not going to make any changes down here to the green or to the blue. We are going to change this to 7,000. And initially, you're not going to see a change. And don't worry about it, because it's going to be the last node that's actually going to generate the event, because the last one right now is still black. So it's coloring over all the other ones. So with the second one, the one called 1, we're going to change this value to, I believe it's 2. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes. So now we're going to leave that at a value of 1, and we're going to leave this white. Okay, so that's going to give us the kind of like the white color, the intense white color. The next one is going to be number 2. Number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to leave this at like 1.2, 1.3. With the out color, we are going to want to change this to 4,000, so we get a nice juicy red. We're going to click OK, and this is going to be the one where we're finally going to be able to see the color change, because it will no longer be black. Because what we're going to tell it with this is sort of like the smoke on the back end of the fire. So this one we're going to say don't start actually playing until about 1 through the system, and then from there we definitely want you to stay black. Okay, and that's going to give us a little bit of the smoke. Now there's a couple of things that are missing, which is why this thing doesn't quite look the same. It's got this kind of consistent thing that we're seeing down there, and there's not a lot of variation in it yet. Whoops, let's see, there's the thing right there, so I can see what it looks like here with the coloring. All right, so we've now gone through and changed everything that we need that was there already. Now we're going to start adding new things. So we're going to right click, and we're going to go to rotation rate, and we're going to add a rotation rate. Now this is going to give the fire the spin that it needs to make it look more realistic, because fire does have like kind of a spinny quality to it. So if we double click and open it up, we're going to open up here, open up there, and this we're going to leave the same. All right, from there, the next thing we're going to do is a consistent acceleration. So we're going to make this thing feel like it's actually being propelled. So this is going to be under acceleration, consistent acceleration, and that gives us a little bit more of the fiery feel to it. And underneath this one, again, we're going to change the acceleration rate down here at the z-axis to 50. Okay, and that gives us more acceleration here at the front end and less acceleration there on the back end because there's less energy. Most of it's been burned up by the time it gets to the end. Okay, the next thing we want to do is a sub-image index. So that's going to be under SUV sub-image index. We're going to put that in, and what that's going to do is over the edges, you see how the edges now are not consistent, they're kind of changing a little bit, so we're getting a randomization of the pattern on the edges. Okay, from there we're going to add in what's called size by life, so we're going to right click again, go to size by life, and if we click on that one, again we're going to open this up, open up the life there, here, and there, and we're going to stick with the two arrange points that we already have, but we're going to leave the first one alone, and on the second one we're actually going to make a change. So let's open up that one, and the change that we want to make is actually we want to add one more, so we're going to add in a second value here. So let's add one more, so we actually have 3 points on the array. Sorry, just had to pop a mosquito. It's the middle of winter in Texas and we still have mosquitoes. Okay, so the first one is going to be narrower, right? And we want this to start at the beginning of where this is. So from the very beginning of the beginning of the emitter, and we're going to make this 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and let's come off of that. There we go. And again, it's going to feel like something just messed up, but it's because we're knocking this down, and the next one is set to 0, so we don't see anything. So let's open up 1, and on this one, let's make it 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, and 0.4. And let's go to the last one, and let's open up the last one. And let's make this one the full 1. So this is going to be the full distance of 1. There's our fire again. See, that's what I mean. Like this, there was many times when I was doing this video where I was like, dude, I just messed up big time. And it's not that. It's just that, you know, it is what it is. So we're going to make this one 1. We're going to make this one 2, 2, and 2. And so now we're going to get something that has a little bit more girth on the back end and a little bit less down here on the edge. And then from there, let's go into collision. And what this is going to do is that when this flame hits an object, instead of just kind of going through it, which is not what fire would do, fire would like stop and kind of like edge off of it. So when you hit something, it's going to not go through the object. If it's got a block, what it's going to do is it's actually going to kind of like the particles are going to go around the object. So they're going to find a way to move around the object. So we're going to put that one as collision. And inside collision, I believe we are going to change this. Well, it needs to be bounce. And I didn't make any other changes to that. Oh, yes, I did distance field. Which means that I need to set up a bounce box. You know what? Let's not do distance field. Let's just leave it like that. Okay, so we now have our flamethrower. If at any point you want to go back and make this look slightly different, I feel like there's missing some. Oh, okay. So before we go off, the other thing that we need to do is we are going to actually copy this. So we're going to right click on it. We are going to I believe, where is it? There it is. So if we come up here to the emitter, right click on it, go to the emitter, hit duplicate emitter, Now with this one, we're going to take the GPU off. So we are going to click on GPU and say delete the mode for that. We probably we don't need the collision on this one because this is essentially, we're going to be using this to create and generate light. We're going to right click on this one, and on this one we're going to, because it doesn't have the GPU sprites on there, we can now add the light. And if we add light, you'll see that that has actually added the light that's going, flame when it comes out has light. So that's where the light is going to be added to. So the first particle emitting system creates our flame, and the second particle emitting system is going to create the light that we're going to need. Now from there, I think I did make a change to one thing. Let's see. So we're clicked into the light, and I'm going to go down into the brightness, open up the distribution, and that was the big thing right there, was changing that to an 8. So it stays a little bit closer to the light source, and it doesn't like balloon out too much, so it doesn't feel like it feels more like a narrow stream as opposed to it being like this big giant stream that it's coming off of. Okay, so at that point we have our torch, our flamethrower. If we move this around, we see the particle system. That is going to be a problem, I think. Let's go to the flame. Let's hit apply. Let's make sure that all that is correct, and it is. Translucent, unlit, and everything. Let's go to the flamethrower, and let's make sure that we didn't miss anything here. So it's layer blend. It's 8x8. The spawn. This is where I messed up. Okay, so the spawn rate needs to be at 1000, okay? And that is going to then be, so when you move this thing around, see how before it wasn't very consistent? It was kind of popping off because it was like at 20, and I'll go back and I'll do that again. So as soon as I started moving it around, it started getting really it broke up pretty good. And it wasn't this consistent stream. But if we have this at 1000, as soon as we start moving this guy around, boom. And also look what it's done with for the smoke on the back end. That has really helped the smoke. Now it's doing this thing right here because it's actually running into an object. So let's move this out of the object's path. And a lot of that was that bounce. Remember the bounce? So when we move this in front of an object and it's hitting an object, there it is. We're going to see the fire get broken up, which would be, that's actually really cool. And if we're not there, it just flows all the way out. Okay, very cool. So there is our flame and fire system. Obviously, you can go back and make alterations to this. Maybe you don't want your flame and fire system to be this long. You might want to shorten it up a little bit. You could always go back to lifetime. And let's say, let's make this a 1, 2. And so now it's a much shorter flame than it was before, right? So you could also go back and reshape it, so size by life. So you could make it a little bit shorter here. So maybe instead of it being 1, let's make this 0.5. And whoa, that really kind of changed the way that looked, didn't it? Let's go back to 0.5. All right. So, play around with it. Find the right length, fire, and all the things that you want now that you have the formula for the way that this thing works. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. Put it back to where it was. Okay. So anyways, so that is the flamethrower and the flame material and how they work together to create the flame itself. In the next tutorial, what we'll do is we'll show you what we did to create the ice flame, and then once we have the ice flame, we'll go ahead and attach it to the first person character. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.